Today we'll be going over every single level 10 vehicle inside of Roblox Jailbreak. All the way from Season 1 in 2020 with the Beam Hybrid, to the most recent level 10 vehicle, the Wedge, added almost 4 years later in Season 23. So we've got quite a few vehicles to go over because pretty much a quarter of the vehicles in this entire game are all just seasonals. But before we get into all of that, we are doing a free Wedge giveaway inside of Roblox Jailbreak, but that'll only happen if you subscribe and we get to 24,000 subscribers before I unlock it. So if you want to steal my OG Wedge in Jailbreak Season 23, then make sure to subscribe. But now let's go ahead and get straight into this. All of the level 10 vehicles in Roblox Jailbreak, from the Beam Hybrid all the way to the Wedge. So basically what I'll be doing is I'll be spawning in every single level 10 vehicle, obviously. I'll then tell you guys when it was added, which season, all of that stuff, and a few of the stats on the vehicle as well if you're looking to get it. So yeah, starting here with the Beam Hybrid, Jailbreak's first seasonal vehicle besides the Torpedo, Arachnid, Raptor, and R8, but we're not going to include those because those are from a separate season system. Since this thing was added in Season 1, it was added all the way back in December of 2020, so that's over 4 years ago now. For some reason, it had a price tag of $500,000. I'm not really too sure why it had a price tag because it was free right as you unlocked it. And well, for the effort you had to put into that season and also for being valued at $500,000, this thing is absolutely garbage. I'm just gonna say it. The model was great back then, but if I'm gonna be honest, it doesn't really look the best nowadays. For my knowledge, the max speed on this thing is about 185 miles per hour, and for being as expensive as it was to get back in 2020, and even now, that is not good. The acceleration is also pretty mid, so it's even harder to get to that top speed, so yeah, it's not really the best. Even back when this was added, people were still calling it really bad, a waste of time, and all of that stuff, so yeah, it's not that good. Not to mention that the off-roading is also pretty mid. It's not really the best either. So if I'm gonna be honest, the value of this vehicle is probably somewhere around $200,000 if it was still obtainable, because this thing is pretty much equivalent to a Stallion, and sometimes it's even worse. So yeah, if you're looking to get it, only get it if you're interested in the model. But after that, in Season 2, we have the Crew Capsule, and I don't even need to say why this thing is a bad vehicle. First of all, it looks like a giant flying egg, and you could barely tell which way you're turning because first of all, this thing is constantly spinning, and it's the same on each side as well. You also can't forget to mention that the top speed is only 90 miles per hour. That is worse than the ATV, I think. And for all of that, the max altitude is only a little bit better than the Celsius, and we'll be getting onto that in a little bit here. So yeah, overall this thing is a pretty mid-seasonal prize, and almost everyone was disappointed when they unlocked it. But now moving on to Season 3, here we have the Volt 4x4. This was added back in April of 2021, and overall, it's a pretty good vehicle. It's not the best though. The acceleration is absolutely garbage, but the top speed is actually pretty good once you get to it. But then since the off-roading is absolutely horrible as well, you start flinging out and you can't even maintain your top speed. The model of the Volt 4x4 is also absolutely huge. I believe it's the widest in the entire game. So whenever you're driving this thing, you'll always be running into fences and stuff just like that, stopping you pretty much instantly. Yet again, we had another mid-seasonal prize. It's pretty good in some areas, like I said, but otherwise still pretty mid, and everyone was quite disappointed when they unlocked it. Entering Season 4 now, though, we have the Rattler, yet another absolutely horrible vehicle. While the model is pretty good and I like the effects here on the front of it, the stats are also pretty bad. The top speed here is about the same as the Beam Hybrid at 185 miles per hour. And honestly, what's pretty embarrassing about this thing is the off-roading is better than the Volt 4x4, literally meant to be an off-roading vehicle. And again, just like the Beam Hybrid, the acceleration is also pretty garbage as well, meaning it's pretty hard to get to that top speed. So yeah, while this vehicle was really cool when it was announced, it's not really that cool nowadays, and I barely see anyone using it in trading as well. But then right after that, Bedima had their redemption arc, because they added in the brand new Banana Car with Season 5 here, and it's actually a pretty good vehicle. The acceleration is good, the top speed is absolutely amazing for being a freaking banana. Like, I believe the top speed of this thing is about 220 miles per hour, so it is pretty good. And believe it or not, this thing also has better off-roading than the Volt 4x4, so that's another win. So yeah, overall, Banana Car, a really good vehicle, and as stupid as it looks, it is actually probably one of the best seasonal vehicles we've gone over so far. But then after that, Asimo and badcc said, well, why stop this streak of good seasonal vehicles now? We might as well go ahead and make another good seasonal vehicle. And so that's why the level 10 vehicle for Season 6, Race to the Top, was was the Beignet, also known as the Bolide, and while at this point pretty much everyone has wanted a Bolide in Jailbreak, and well, they just got it for level 10 in Season 6. And as you guys are probably aware, the Bolide here is not a bad vehicle. In fact, it's probably one of the best in the entire game, even to this day 3 years later. This thing has a top speed of almost 300 miles per hour, so it is really fast, and the acceleration is also pretty good, so that's just yet another really good part about this vehicle. And for being a supercar, the off-roading is also surprisingly good, and it's probably still better than the Volt 4x4. And like I said, even to this day, the Beignet is probably one of the best vehicles inside of Roblox Jailbreak. But now moving on from Season 6 here to Season 7 with the Icebreaker. Pretty much everyone in trading knows this vehicle by now. And while the Icebreaker didn't really fit the theme of the season it was added in, it is still a really good vehicle. First of all, since it's electric, the acceleration is really good. And then as for the top speed, that is about 200 miles per hour. So in a nutshell, the Icebreaker is pretty much a roadster but with 4 seats. So yeah, to this day, the Icebreaker is still an absolutely amazing vehicle to have, and if you don't have it already and you're looking to get one, then definitely make sure to get it. And well, believe it or not, but Badimo is still on their streak of absolutely amazing seasonal vehicles. For Season 8 here, we have the Celsior. Now this thing is pretty much a drone, but just a little bit more restricted because obviously it is a spawnable flying vehicle. I keep saying that every single time. And well, for that, this thing is pretty good. The top speed is 115 miles per hour. And the acceleration is pretty much the exact same as any other flying vehicle in this game. The model of the Celsior also looks really good and definitely fit the style of this season. And overall, I have no regrets grinding this season because I still use this thing to this day and it's extremely helpful. And it's still better than the crew capsule, so that's another plus. And while unfortunately, as we all know, all good things must come to an end. And while the reason I'm saying that is because Badimo's streak of good seasonal vehicles, yeah, it's officially ended. Because after Jailbreak's biggest update in history, adding in this entire part of the map with the casino heist and Crater City, yeah, for level 8 in Season 9, we got the Jackrabbit. And yes, you guys are not going crazy, this thing was a level 8 vehicle, not a level 10 vehicle this time. And well, because of that, this thing is absolutely mid, and the top speed is absolutely horrible, the acceleration is also horrible. And then probably the only good thing about the Jackrabbit was its off-roading, which even then is still pretty mid compared to the vehicles we have now. So yeah, overall the Jackrabbit here is a pretty mid vehicle, it's also pretty forgettable, so yeah, it goes straight into the volcano. But then for Season 10 at level 10, we have the Macron, and things started looking good once again. We're now in June 2022, and this thing is pretty much the exact same as the Beignet, except a little bit slower, and it has a little bit better acceleration. And this time around, this model has an animated spoiler, the first one in Jailbreak history, along with one of the best looking models in the entire game. So yeah, overall, the Season 10 update was pretty good. It also added in trading, so this was a really good match alongside that. So while definitely forgotten, the Macron here is still a really great vehicle to have in 2024 and entering 2025. But then for Season 11, we have the Bloxy, and this thing is pretty good, but only in one area. The acceleration, the top speed, and stuff like that isn't really the best on the Bloxy. In fact, it's pretty bad. But see, right as you start moving your steering wheel, you could see that this thing turns incredibly quickly. Like, to show you guys how fast I'm talking here, if I go ahead and line up my vehicle here and start taking a turn, it does it perfectly. Quite literally, no other vehicle in Jailbreak history could ever do this, and the Bloxy is the first one and the only one to ever have this ability. But yeah, otherwise, this thing is also pretty mid and also pretty forgettable, so yeah, that's pretty disappointing. And while next up here for Season 12, we have the Goliath, probably Jailbreak's biggest vehicle to this day. Obviously, the stats on this vehicle are absolutely abysmal. It does not go faster than like 100 miles per hour. Never mind, I take that back. This is actually one pretty fast tank. And while if I'm going to be honest, really the only good thing about the Goliath here is the seating capacity and also just looking pretty cool. And yeah, pretty interesting fun fact about the Goliath, you can actually go in the back of it, so that's another really cool feature about that. I wish more vehicles did this. And yeah, now that Badimo also fixed the turrets in Jailbreak, you could also use the turrets up here if you have access to it. So yeah, overall, while not good stats-wise, you know, top speed and acceleration, it is pretty good for off-roading and in PvP with a bunch of people. But now at Season 13, we have the Bandit, probably Jailbreak's most forgettable vehicle. The top speed is pretty mid, and just like that, the acceleration is also pretty mid. So yeah, unfortunately, in conclusion, this thing is a pretty bad vehicle, and well, if you don't have it and you're looking to get it, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Anyways, next up here in Season 14, we have the Proto 8, and you know, while the model of this thing is really good and the acceleration is probably one of the best in the entire game, maybe even beating the Roadster, the top speed isn't really the best, and overall, it's not really a great vehicle to use if you're playing in a public server. But something that is good about the Proto 8 is for some reason it is really good at climbing walls. I'm not really too sure why, but if you get a good angle, you will be able to climb up a few walls. Like now, I'm using the Proto 8 here, and I'm just stuck to this wall for some reason. I'm not really too sure how and why, and it's just kind of weird. So if I could describe the Proto 8 here in one word, I'll say that it's just overhyped because, yeah, it's like literally just a reskin of the Roadster, but a little bit worse in some areas and a little bit better, so it's pretty much the exact same thing in the long run. Not to mention, this was also added in an update where the season was literally the only feature, and this was before updates were discontinued, so yeah, it wasn't really the best update. But next up here in Season 15, we have the Shogun, and well, surprisingly, this thing is actually pretty good. The top speed is really nice, the acceleration is also pretty good as well. The model looks great, and there's also a really cool effect on the back while you're braking or drifting. So yeah, while not the best vehicle in the entire game, it is still a pretty good vehicle if you're looking for a car that has a really nice model. And yes, if you guys are wondering, we are now in April of 2023. But next up here, we have the Poseidon in Season 16, and yeah, there's not really much to be said about this vehicle. It's really forgotten, and well, it's not really that great either. It was really overhyped when it was added, and yeah, to this day, it's not really that great. You guys could see the top speed isn't really the best, and also the acceleration is pretty mid as well, so yeah, not really that helpful. Although something I gotta say about the Poseidon is it's the only vehicle in the entire game with a literal bathtub in the back of it. So yeah, that'll be a really good feature if your Jailbreak character hasn't showered in over 7 years. But then for Season 17, we have the Power 1, which is probably the best seasonal vehicle of 2023. The acceleration is pretty good, the top speed is about 230 miles per hour, I believe. And overall, this is a really great vehicle to use even in grinding, public servers, and all of that cool stuff. This update also added in the brand new season system, adding in daily XP and weekly contracts, so those were also some really cool things to have. So yeah, overall, really great vehicle, and like I said, it's probably the best seasonal vehicle we got for that entire year. But then for Season 18, we pretty much got a retextured Bandit. Honestly, there's nothing really special about this besides the convertible top here, which is honestly really cool. Like stats wise, this thing is pretty much identical to the Bandit. You literally can't tell the difference apart. So yeah, overall, a really forgotten vehicle, and I'm probably never going to use it ever again. But then right after that, we have yet another really mid vehicle, and it is the Frostcrawler. This thing was added back in December of 2023 with the oil rig update, so overall a pretty good update besides the seasonal vehicle. And yeah, this thing is pretty much like the tow truck, but a lot worse and a lot slower and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm barely ever going to use it, and it's just kind of sitting in my inventory. I'm pretty sure we're all able to see now that Badimo's streak of great seasonal vehicles is way long gone. And the reason I say that is because next season, in Season 20, it doesn't get any better either. We got the Striker, and I'm gonna be honest, this is like my 3rd time ever using it. I almost never ever drove it before. I don't think I need to really explain why this thing is a bad seasonal vehicle. It's really slow, the acceleration is mid, and overall, it's a pretty bad vehicle. Really, the only good part about it is the fact that the off-roading is pretty good, but yeah, otherwise, it's not the best, and it's also pretty forgettable. But now in Season 21, things are starting to get a little bit better. We got the OG monster truck. Literally everyone has been wanting this thing ever since it got removed. And overall, for being a monster truck, this thing is pretty good. The top speed is great, the acceleration is great, and of course the off-roading is the best so far inside of Roblox Jailbreak. And yes, we are now in April of 2024 with the live event earlier this year, so it is a pretty recent vehicle. And yeah, there's not really anything special about the monster truck except for the fact that you're able to go in water without drowning using it. So yeah, it's definitely far from being a must-have vehicle or something like that, but it is still pretty helpful to have when you need it. Now entering Season 22 though with the Maverick, we have a pretty mid vehicle once again. I'm gonna be honest, I only drove this like once or twice, so I barely even know what the stats are like. I'm just gonna go ahead and test them real quick. So the top speed here seems to be around 180, 190 miles per hour, which isn't really that bad, but it is still like pretty bad at the same time, you know. The acceleration is absolutely garbage, and well, if I'm gonna be honest, the off-roading is also pretty garbage as well, because yeah, it starts doing that. The turning also feels very stiff for some reason. I'm not really too sure why. That's probably just something about how this vehicle was set up in studio. And yeah, we had to deal with this vehicle for like over 3 months, and I really never liked it, so I'm just gonna give it the rocket launcher. But yeah, with that, those are all of the level 10 vehicles inside of Roblox Jailbreak right now. Obviously, we still have the Wedge here, and we'll be going over how this is like once I unlock it. So yeah, hopefully that'll be soon, because so far this vehicle is looking pretty promising. And I don't think I'd be the only one that'd be super disappointed if this thing ends up being mid. So yeah, for now we're just gonna go ahead and have to wait and see. But for the time being, like I said, that is every single level 10 vehicle inside of Roblox Jailbreak that I have right now. If you guys have a favorite vehicle from that list, make sure to put it down below in the comments. I'm interested to see what you guys think. And so yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you've all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.